On my 17th birthday, my father slipped a diamond ring onto my finger and whispered, "Marry me." I know how shocking that sounds. I know you are probably holding your breath right now, your mind racing with disbelief. But this is not fiction. This is my life, my betrayal, my scars. And tonight, I am telling it all. Before I begin, I want to pause and thank every single one of you listening. Your support means the world to me. Please, do not forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. And I promise, the story you are about to hear will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and betrayal. The day started like any other birthday. My friends at school had signed my yearbook with silly notes, my best friend Lauren had handed me a cupcake with a candle shoved into the middle, and my teachers had smiled at me, reminding me that 17 was a special age. But when I got home, everything changed. My father, David, was waiting for me in the kitchen. He was a man who carried himself with confidence, someone who commanded attention everywhere he went. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a jawline cut sharp like stone. To the world, he was the perfect single father, the man who had raised his only daughter after my mother abandoned us when I was 3. To me, he was my protector, my hero, the only man who had ever made me feel safe. Until that night. He had decorated the house with balloons, streamers, and a cake that spelled out, "Happy birthday, my princess." I remember feeling overwhelmed, loved, and cherished. But then, after the laughter faded, after the candles were blown out, he pulled me into the living room and gave me a small velvet box. I opened it, expecting earrings or maybe a necklace. Instead, I found a diamond ring. My stomach flipped, my pulse raced, and before I could process what it meant, he slipped it onto my finger. "Marry me, Emily," he whispered. The words sank like poison in my chest. I froze, my body numb, my throat tightening as if I had swallowed fire. I laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of twisted joke. But his eyes, dark, serious, and burning with something I had never seen before, told me it was not a joke. "You are my everything," he said, his voice low, trembling. "Your mother left us, and you grew up into the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Why should I give you away to someone else? Why should I let anyone else have you?" I shook my head, my mind screaming for escape, but my body betrayed me. I had always craved his attention, his approval, his affection. And now he was offering it in a way that made my skin crawl but also made me feel wanted in a way no boy my age had ever made me feel. I wish I could say I ran. I wish I could tell you that I screamed for help or called the police. But I did not. I let him kiss me. It was wrong, it was twisted, it was sinful. But in that moment, I was a 17-year-old girl who had only ever known one man as her world. I surrendered to his control because I did not know how to separate love from manipulation, protection from possession. That night, he held me like I belonged to him. He whispered that no one could ever love me the way he did. He promised me a future where no man could hurt me, because he would be the one keeping me. I remember lying in bed afterward, staring at the ceiling, my body shaking with both disgust and longing. Tears slipped down my cheeks, but part of me believed him. Part of me believed that maybe this was love. In the weeks that followed, I lived a double life. At school, I was just Emily, the girl who laughed at lunch, who passed notes in class, who dreamed of college. At home, I was something else entirely. He bought me dresses that made me look older, shoes that clicked across the floor like a woman instead of a girl. He would take me out to restaurants in the next town over, introducing me as his fiancée to strangers who did not know any better. I should have been horrified. I should have screamed the truth to anyone who would listen. But instead, I felt trapped in a cage made of his approval. He told me I was special. He told me no one would ever understand. He told me if I told anyone, they would call me crazy, and I would lose him forever. And I believed him. It was 3 months after my birthday when the first real confrontation happened. I had just gotten out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, when he walked into my room without knocking. His eyes locked onto me, and the air thickened with tension. "You are mine, Emily," he said, his voice low and rough. "Do not ever forget that." Something inside me snapped. "You are my father." I screamed, my voice cracking, my hands trembling as I clutched the towel around me. "This is wrong. You are supposed to protect me, not." But before I could finish, he grabbed my face, forcing me to look at him. His grip was strong, his eyes blazing with anger and desperation. "You think I do not know it is wrong?" he hissed. "But I cannot stop. You are the only one who makes me feel alive. If you leave me, Emily, I will die." His words cut through me like glass. I wanted to hate him, but instead, guilt wrapped around me like chains. I was convinced that if I walked away, I would destroy him. And so I stayed. By the time summer ended, I knew something was different. My body was changing, my cycle had stopped, and nausea twisted my stomach every morning. I was pregnant. At 17 years old, carrying the child of my own father. The day I saw the plus sign on the test, I collapsed onto the bathroom floor, shaking so violently I thought I might die. My world spun, my breath caught in my throat, and all I could hear was his voice in my head whispering, "You are mine." When I told him, his face lit up with a terrifying joy. He held me close, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "This is proof of our love. No one can ever take you away from me now." But deep inside, a storm was rising. Because what he did not know was that someone else had started to notice. Someone had seen the way he looked at me. Someone had heard the whispers, the too long silences, the strange glances. And that someone was about to expose everything. Every day of my pregnancy felt like walking on broken glass. My body was changing, my belly swelling with a truth too horrifying to speak aloud. I avoided mirrors because the reflections staring back at me no longer felt like mine. The first trimester was filled with nausea and fear. I wore oversized hoodies to school, hoping no one would notice. My best friend Lauren grew suspicious. She would stare at me in the cafeteria, tilting her head as if studying every movement, every wince, every trip to the bathroom. "Are you okay?" she asked one afternoon as we sat under the oak tree by the soccer field. I forced a smile. "I am fine. Just tired." But her eyes narrowed. "Emily, I am not stupid. Something is going on." I wanted to tell her. God, I wanted to scream the truth until my throat bled. But how could I? How could I admit that the life growing inside me belonged to the man who had raised me? How could I explain the twisted web of love, manipulation, and shame that held me prisoner? So I stayed silent. At home, my father became more possessive. He hovered over me like a shadow, controlling what I ate, how I dressed, even how I walked. He kissed my stomach as if worshipping it, whispering promises of a perfect family. "You and I do not need anyone else," he said one night as we sat on the couch, my head resting against his chest though my heart was pounding. "We will raise this baby together. No one will understand, but that does not matter. You belong to me." I felt his arms tighten around me like shackles. My skin crawled, but my voice failed me. Every part of me wanted to run, yet every time I imagined leaving, guilt clawed me back. What if he really did hurt himself? What if it was my fault? I was trapped between loyalty and survival. The truth began to slip through cracks I could no longer control. Lauren caught me in the bathroom at school one morning, throwing up into the sink. She stood behind me, her face pale as she whispered, "Emily, you are pregnant." Tears burned my eyes. I wanted to deny it, but instead, I nodded. She grabbed my shoulders. "Who is the father?" I froze. The words lodged in my throat like knives. My silence was an answer in itself. Her eyes widened, horror dawning across her face. "No. Please tell me it is not." I broke down, sobbing into her arms. She held me, trembling, her voice shaking with rage. "Emily, this is not love. This is abuse." He is using you. But I could not bear to hear it. I pulled away, shaking my head. You do not understand. He loves me. He needs me. If I leave him, he will. Stop protecting him, she snapped. You are the victim, Emily. Do you hear me? You are not his wife. You are his daughter. Her words cut through me like fire. For the first time, the walls I had built to justify what was happening began to crumble. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. One evening, Lauren showed up at my house unannounced. My father opened the door, his smile polite but his eyes dark with suspicion. Is Emily here? She asked, her voice cold. He glanced at her, then called for me. I came downstairs, my heart hammering in my chest. Lauren's eyes darted to my stomach, her jaw tightening. Emily, she said firmly, you need to come with me. My father's arms snaked around my shoulders possessively. She is not going anywhere. Lauren's face twisted with disgust. You cannot keep her like this. People will find out. I will make sure they do. My father's grip on me tightened. Leave, he ordered, his voice low and dangerous. Lauren's eyes met mine, filled with desperation. Please, Emily. Say something. Tell him you want out. But I could not. Fear paralyzed me. My lips parted, but no words came. She left in tears, slamming the door behind her. My father turned to me, fury burning in his eyes. You told her, he demanded. I did not mean to, I stammered, my whole body shaking. His face darkened. Do you know what you have done? Do you know what she could destroy? That night, he locked the doors and kept the keys on his nightstand. I was not just his daughter anymore. I was his prisoner. 2 weeks later, the police showed up at our door. It was late evening, the sky painted in shades of violet and gold. I was curled up on the couch when red and blue lights flashed through the window. My stomach dropped as the knock echoed through the house. My father's face drained of color. He turned to me, his voice a hiss. Stay silent. Do you hear me? Not a word. But when the officers walked in, their eyes fell on my swollen belly, then on the fear etched into my face. David Williams, one of them said. You are under arrest for unlawful sexual conduct, child abuse, and coercion. My father lunged toward me, desperation written across his face. Emily, tell them. Tell them you love me. Tell them it was your choice. Tears blurred my vision as they dragged him away in handcuffs. His voice echoed through the walls, broken and furious. Emily. You are mine. Do not let them take me from you. But I stood frozen, my hand on my belly, my world collapsing. Because even though he was gone, even though the truth was out, the baby inside me was still his. And the hardest choice of my life still lay ahead. 9 months felt like a lifetime. Every doctor's appointment, every glance from nurses, every whisper in the waiting room carried judgment sharp enough to slice through my skin. I could see it in their eyes. They wondered who the father was, why I refused to say his name, why I never showed up with anyone but Lauren by my side. When labor came, it was brutal. My body convulsed with pain, my screams echoing through sterile hospital walls. But the pain in my heart was louder. I was giving birth not only to a child but to a living reminder of betrayal, manipulation, and shame. When they placed my baby boy in my arms, I felt both love and devastation. His tiny hands curled around my finger, his cries piercing the air, and in that moment, I knew I could never hate him. He was innocent. He did not choose how he came into this world. But still, he was my father's son. 2 weeks later, I went to see my father in jail. The guards led me into a cold visiting room with gray walls and glass partitions. My father sat on the other side, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, his once commanding presence reduced to a man shackled by his crimes. His eyes lit up when he saw me. Emily, he whispered into the phone, pressing his palm against the glass. "Where is the baby? Let me see him." My throat tightened. "You will never see him," I said, my voice trembling. His face twisted with rage. "He is mine. He belongs to me, just like you do." "No," I snapped, tears spilling down my cheeks. "He is not yours. He will never know your name. You destroyed me, but you will not destroy him." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes, not fear of prison, not fear of punishment, but fear of losing control. His voice broke as he begged, "Do not do this to me, Emily. I love you. I need you." But I hung up the phone and walked away, my heart pounding with both grief and strength. That was the last time I ever saw him. Life after his arrest was not easy. The whispers followed me everywhere. At school, people stared. Some pitied me, others judged me. Parents pulled their children away from me, as if my shame was contagious. Lauren never left my side. She defended me when people spat cruel words, when teachers looked at me differently, when even family members turned cold. But the hardest confrontation came from within myself. I hated my reflection. I hated the scars etched into my soul. Some nights, I held my son and cried until my body shook, whispering apologies to him, as if he could understand. "I am sorry," I whispered, kissing his soft forehead. "I am sorry you were born from betrayal. But I promise, you will never know the pain I lived through. I will break this chain. I will raise you in love, not lust. In truth, not lies." The months turned into years, and slowly, I began to rebuild. I went to therapy. I spoke to counselors. I joined support groups for survivors of abuse, where I learned to replace shame with courage. My son grew, bright and curious, his laughter filling the spaces that once echoed with my father's poison. Each time he called me Mommy, my heart mended a little more. I no longer saw him as a reminder of my father. I saw him as proof of my survival. Proof that even from the darkest betrayal, life could emerge. One day, when my son is old enough, I will tell him the truth. Not to burden him, but to teach him that love should never be built on chains. That family should never hurt the way mine did. That even when the world tries to break you, you can rise. I may always carry the scars of my past, but I am no longer defined by them. Because I am not my father's possession. I am not his secret. I am not his shame. I am Emily. I am a mother. I am a survivor. To everyone listening to my story, remember this: betrayal may break you, lust may trap you, and confrontation may terrify you, but none of these things can define you unless you let them. You have the power to rise from the ashes of your pain. If my story resonated with you, please share it. Let it be a reminder that silence is not protection, that love is not control, and that healing is possible. And if you are living through something similar, please, find your voice. Speak. Reach for help. You are not alone.